Hello, Laurence. How are you?
Hi, Hamilton. I'm good. Thanks. How about you?
I'm very fine. I'm very pleased to have you joining the conversation around our favorite topic, how digital transformation and digital technology can help the world becoming a better place. Before we start, let me briefly introduce you to your audience. So, Laurence LAFONT, you are the Vice President, Strategic Industries, EMEA for Google Cloud. Prior to Google, you spent over 8 years at Microsoft, and most recently, you were Chief Operating Officer for Microsoft in France. You also sit on the board of several organizations, Silver Valley, an innovation accelerator to develop solutions for aging population, Ventiva, a French multinational that provides creative services and technology products for the communication, media, and entertainment industries, and Central Supélec, a well-known French engineering university. So, Laurence, again, this is a great pleasure to have you joining this conversation. I'm sure we, let's say, are going to tackle some of the key subjects that is, let's say, making a lot of, let's say, the buzz in our current technology landscape and discussion all around the world when it comes to AI and when it comes to those technology at the service of society. And so with that, the floor is yours. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hamilton, for having me. And yes, it's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about this topic, which is so important to not only my work, but also my passion on how technology can really impact positively society and our lives. And as you said, it's a very very important period I think we are in at the moment. A lot of buzz around AI those days, right, in the society, and how AI can effectively help transform our lives. And so I would like to maybe start introducing a little bit the broader scene and giving a few examples also. I think it's maybe a great way to show concretely how technology is really helping in many different domains in the society, and is really, I think, when used in the proper way, creating a very positive impact on our lives. So yes, as I was mentioning, really personally and also through my work at Google and Google Cloud, really believing that AI can provide great new ways of approaching problems and really meaningfully improving people's lives. And we are spending a lot of time within Google with our research teams, with our engineering teams, to look at how we can really advance, I would say, the state of the art in this field, and really applying AI to products, to new domains, and constantly looking at where it can really have a very positive impact, again, on how companies and organizations operate and how society is transforming. So first of all, maybe just, it's always good to start with a little bit of a definition, right, on what is AI and what we're really talking about. So artificial intelligence is really defined as the field of science related to building computers and machines that can reason, learn, and act in such a way that would normally require human intelligence, or that involves data whose scale exceeds what humans can analyze. And I think really that's very important to highlight that we have seen massive acceleration in the field of artificial intelligence over the last decade. And the access to data and the capability to scale data is really one of the key elements, because as you know, AI, to be able to operate, needs to learn. Those technologies needs to learn. And so you need to have a very large data set to ensure that what you learn is as representative as possible of the society. So as I was mentioning, we are really firm believers that AI can really help resolve some of the global challenges we are facing and address some of those goals, which have been in particular defined by the UN, which is what we are calling the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know how many of you have heard about those ones. I think we start really talking very regularly about those global goals, which have been set by many nations through the UN, and they are defining ambitious targets really to develop and define a better and a more sustainable future by 2030. So of course, to tackle, I would say, some of those global objectives, societies, countries, organizations, NGOs, public and private entities have to work together, have to bring, their skin in the game together, and have to commit to ensure that we can really bring the best of everything we do within our organizations, within our countries, to really address those goals and bring, as far as we're concerned, as Google, for instance, really bring the best of our technologies and advanced technologies to really accelerate progress in those areas. And so just to give, a flavor of what those 17 sustainable development goals are, you have here the UN picture that represents those goals. So as you can see, a lot of various areas which are really touching each and every one of us in our lives. Topics around, poverty, tackling the poverty challenge in the world, tackling also the health and the well-being challenge, in particular looking at, the number of childhood deaths, for instance, that we want to absolutely eradicate around the world. Quality of education, which is also, of course, a very, very important goal and objective. And we have still a lot to do in that space, I would say, to really ensure that we bring education to each and everyone around the world. Gender equality, another example of a very important goal. As you know, gender bias is really undermining our social fabric, really devaluing all of us. So it's not only, I would say, on this one, human rights issue. I think it's also an absolutely tremendous waste of the world's human potential. So very important that we work also around the world on this gender equality. Sustainability, obviously, very important topic. I think there's no one day spent without talking about, the challenges, right, that we're all facing around sustainability. And so how do we bring that to cities? How do we bring sustainability to communities? How do we ensure also that around the world, societies which are also evolving and growing and developing can do it in a sustainable way. And climate action is also another very important one in those global goals. Of course, climate change is a real and undeniable threat to our entire civilization. We have to take action urgently. And here again, through education, through innovation, we can really tackle those climate commitments and make the necessary changes to protect the planet. So just a few examples, out of the 17. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but it gives, I think, a good flavor of these so-called world's to-do list, right? So really very important societal challenges that we have to tackle to ensure that we can create also a good future for all of us. And so when we talk about AI, when we talk about technology, of course, we have to really bring in this notion of responsible AI, responsible technology. I think it's super important to mention that because, of course, all of us hear and see some situations where technology is not used for good or can derail. I'm sure, we all have in mind, the deep fake news and how we can really impact negatively the society, how we can impact the education, how we can impact the kind of information that you are using to, build your decision-making process and so on. So very important, of course, that we are moving away from that and we are really creating an environment where technology is used for good and in a responsible manner. Here you can see, I just put that slide, which is really the example of Google AI principles. So those are principles that we are applying to ourselves in everything we do around AI, around the use of this technology to ensure that effectively we are not going to create unfair environment. We are not going to create, usage of this technology that would not be for good. So some of those principles, be socially beneficial. Principle number one, extremely important, very aligned with the mission of Google, which is to bring the information in a universe manner and in a useful manner to everyone. Same here with AI. Avoiding creating or reinforcing unfair bias. As you know, those technologies, if the data sets that you are using, for instance, to train your artificial intelligence models, can really bring bias, right? Like, for instance, if you train a model with only male information, for instance, in a hiring process or HR systems, then guess what, right? The system will only bring out information which is going to be gender bias. So you need to ensure that the data sets you're using are absolutely representative of the diversity of the society to ensure that the models are trained on this data and are not bringing bias. This is extremely important. All the companies, all the entities who are working around AI are really have to use as a very core principle. Number 3, be built and tested for safety. Same here, right? So you need to ensure that, of course, this technology is not going to create harm, but on the contrary, it's creating a safe environment. Be accountable to people. Of course, we are creating technology that has to serve the population, that has to serve the humans, and be accountable to those goals and objectives that we are setting to ourselves. Incorporate privacy design principles, very important as well. Of course, we want to ensure that data that is being used, we want to ensure that information you provide is absolutely, leveraged in a private manner. Of course, we have a lot of guardrails in that space, and we are using those guardrails also internally in everything we do around AI in Google, just to give that example. I'm not maybe going to go through all of them in detail, but this again gives you, I think, a good flavor of the environment that you absolutely need to set from an ethical standpoint, from a responsible standpoint, when you are using those technologies and when you are using AI to really address, some business problems and some societal problems. I will take a few examples because I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's maybe the best way to show how those technologies can really, be used for good and have a very positive and a very concrete impact to tackle some of those global goals I was mentioning earlier. So this is an example in the healthcare domain, right? And how you can use AI to help access to diabetic eye screening systems to detect the diabetic retinopathy, which is basically an eye condition that can result in vision loss if it is left untreated. So it's very important that you can detect these potential very early. And thanks to AI, we have been able, in collaboration with Verily, which is one of the health-oriented entity within the Alphabet group, we have been able to develop an AI-based automatic retinal disease assessment tool. Basically, what it does is that it detects diabetic eye disease on the human expert level. And so you don't need to roll out, experts around the world. You just need to use this tool and this technology to be able to really obtain very, very strong and very positive results. So this technology, for instance, has already screened over 100,000 diabetic patients to date, and especially in areas which don't typically have easy access to doctors. For instance, we are running effectively the nurses in local clinics in India are now using very confidently this technology and the screening results with the patients in their own community. So it gives access again to prevention to many, many populations which wouldn't have access without this technology before. Another example in the education space, as I mentioned, right, this is such an important area to also drive consistently, I would say, across the world and really bring education and access to education everywhere. We have also here developed a solution which is called Read Along, and it's basically a speech and artificial intelligence-based reading tutor app and a website which helps young children learn to read. And so the way it works, it's basically, it helps to improve reading skills through a very interactive approach with a buddy, let's say, right, that you have on the application, which is called DIA in this instance. And what this assistant is going to do is that it listens to user reading aloud, and it offers support when the child is going to struggle. Eventually, it's going to bring rewards when you read out really well. And so Read Along comes with thousands of leveled kids' stories. So of course, you're bringing it also in the context of kids and what they like to read. So you have this massive number of kid stories available in 11 different languages, and this works completely offline. So with your phone, with the app, you can really have a system that is going to help many children access to learning how to read in a much more easier way. And so just to give a few statistics and data points. So since we launched in India in 2019, over 30 million children have read more than 120 million stories. So the efficacy of this application has really been demonstrated in multiple independent studies. 40% of users who engaged with read along saw an improvement by 1 or more reading levels as compared to those who hadn't used the application. So here again, very easy, very simple use case, but where thanks to technology, thanks to AI, you can really bring these capabilities to so many more children around the world. Another good example, I think, that also speaks for itself. So using AI to detect facial gestures for communication. As you know, we have around the world a lot of people who are living with severe motor or speech impairments and can find it extremely difficult to communicate with others because they are unable to speak verbally, or they cannot use technology that requires the use of your hands to be able to communicate and interact. So with this project called Activate, it is an application, an Android application that helps users communicate very quickly by detecting facial gestures and eye movements. So here again, you're using artificial intelligence technology and solution to be able to detect this gesture. And then it's going to translate basically what it detects into actions, like for instance, audio or text. And basically, this application is super well used by many people, many users who have severe motor or speech disabilities. You detect facial movements and you, for instance, can act to gaze the direction or to run in real time. So that's another very important and very successful application and use case of AI that we have rolled out in many countries. Another one that has been started in Brazil, actually, using also AI to translate sign language for digital communications. So here we are going to address the challenge for many deaf and hard of hearing individuals who really, of course, struggle to read and write, and they are relying largely on sign language to communicate. And here we used, again, AI to be able to translate very simply Portuguese into Brazilian Sign Language through a digital avatar that you can see here in the screen, enabling digital communication for Brazilians who are deaf and hard of hearing. And so basically how it's going to work, this application will translate very simply. So we have developed 9 modules that process videos, signs, and animations. We have added a lot of models, machine learning models, to augment the production, from automatic splitting to sign similarity search, and more recently, a model that can capture movement, convert and clean up videos to animation. We have already reached 70,000 monthly active users via this application since we launched it in 2020. And so we are now about to also expand that. I mean, many companies are using it also to bring it to their website. So you can really bring much more accessibility, much more user-friendly environment in many websites, in retail, in whatever domains, to help also, again, people with those kind of difficulties have a much easier access to technology and to information. This one, which is another example now more in the sustainability environment, right, and in the greenhouse gas emissions. So here we are using AI to optimize traffic lights and to reduce emissions in cities. many cities, as we know, right, are really suffering from the urban road traffic, which definitely wastes fuel and creates harmful air pollution. So road transportation is responsible for a lot of these greenhouse gases emissions. We have developed this optimizing traffic system. For a long time, actually, it's been used, in Google Maps, in Waze, where you have these automation, this optimization of routes, traffic routes. We have used and leveraged this technology to basically optimize the traffic and to ensure that, green light, red light are going to be optimized depending on the traffic on the road, to ensure that basically the cars are not going to stop when not necessary, and adapt the lighting, the traffic lighting, to the actual traffic of cars, so that you can effectively reduce and limit as much as possible the gas emissions within the cities. And so this system has been extremely successful. It's live in many cities and intersections globally in many of those cities where it has been deployed. We have, it in use in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, in Bangalore, in India, in Seattle, in Washington, USA, in Budapest, in Hungary, and so on and so forth. So many cities are really rolling out and deploying this technology, which again can contribute to 10% of emissions reduction within the cities. So again, great contribution and great impact, with easy, again, use cases, but that you can tackle thanks to AI and technology. Another and final one that I will share here as well. So using AI to preserve endangered animal populations. Here, basically, we have many scientists who have been collecting natural sounds for decades, but analyzing those sounds coming from the submarine animals takes a lot of time and effort. Today, just to give an example, so we have 15 species of whales still listed under the Endangered Species Act. And whales have been protected for decades in many oceans, but they face other threats from human activity. Knowing where whales are is absolutely critical to, of course, being able to monitor and protect them. And so the challenge we are facing in that space is that it's very difficult to film or to take photos, obviously, of the whales, looking at where they are living, and the depth of where they are. So biologists have relied on acoustic data to track them. And here, artificial intelligence can greatly accelerate their ability to analyze acoustic data at scale. And again, if you recall what I was mentioning at the beginning, this notion of scale and being able to really leverage very, very large data sets is really one of the big power of AI. And this is a very good example here. So the Bioacoustics Initiative uses machine learning to help biologists detect and classify animal sounds. And this technology has been used so far to recognize orcas, humpback whales, and birds. And so here, the detector, which is used for orca and in Canada in this special example, is used to track a critically endangered population of orca whales. And basically, they have, the DFO has provided 1,018 hours of underwater audio and 68,000 labels to teach a model, a machine learning model, to recognize those orca sounds. So again, another great example of how AI technology can really help protect, monitor, and better understand also, where those species are, and how you can really track them and monitor them to protect them in the future. So these again give you, a few examples of how really technology, how AI can help very concretely tackle some of those global goals, or actually contribute. Maybe tackle is a little bit overstating. I mean, obviously, we are really contributing greatly thanks to those technologies and those examples of applications to address some of those goals and global objectives from the UN. And we really believe that also, as I mentioned, right, working in collaboration, sharing is absolutely paramount to our collective success in that space. So we are, actively partnering with governments, academics, non-profit organizations, NGOs. We are sharing a lot of papers around the work. As you know, also Google has been very much in the open source space, from day one, to ensure that we can also advance and progress much more rapidly, collectively, in tackling some of those major challenges thanks to technology. And maybe before we open for discussion, Hamilton, there's one thing I wanted to also mention, right, which is the emergence of what we call generative AI. I'm sure you have heard about this technology, as there's so much buzz maybe around that right recently. Generative AI is really, opening a lot of great new opportunities thanks to the ability of this technology to generate content to help, I think, each and every one of us. We like to call it as a AI collaborator moving forward. So helping your creativity, helping automating many more tasks, because with generative AI, you really go to the next level of the AI capability. So of course, this is an area that will require, again, very, very responsible approach, because you need to be careful about how you're going to use this technology, how you're going to generate content, how you're going to really ensure that the content you generate is useful, is fair, is also, of course, very respectful of the privacy of each and every one of us. So it opens again, a lot of questioning in that space, but it also opens a lot of great opportunities for organizations to continue to transform, and for societies as well. So, I'm sure we will talk a lot about these generative AI domain in the near and mid future, and certainly that's an area where we have made some great announcements recently, and we are again releasing this technology with a lot of caution and care to ensure that when it's out, it's really been tested and it's fulfilling these responsible AI criteria that I was mentioning. And maybe we could try to roll out a small video. So hopefully that gave you also a flavor of, how these so-called generative AI technology is going to really also change the way we work, right? With this kind of AI collaborator, which, helps you, yes, on your emails, creating content, creating presentations, and so on. So again, really very exciting new wave and new phase, which of course is going to pose also a lot of great questions around the usage, right? And yeah.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much, Laurence. I think this is a great, let's say, overview when it comes to, let's say, understanding how AI and digital technologies can very much be at the service of good for society. And I like let's say, the different examples that you took when it comes to, let's say, seeing how we can have an impact related to the UN goals. Definitely, yeah, we are living a kind of a very exciting world and moment for all of us with those, let's say, technologies, and especially those recent, let's say, announcements when it comes to generative AI. My very first question for you, Laurence, will be very much about, the first slides, right, that you shared with us in terms of definition. I think this is worthwhile to, let's say, take a moment to, let's say, reflect around what is AI so far. In your definition of what AI is, you highlight 3 characteristics so far that AI could have: reason, learn, and act. We can understand the idea of having AI being able to learn, and thanks to machine learning and deep learning and so on. I think it is quite understandable that, of course, the AI, it is going to learn from the data that we, let's say, inject in the machine, etc. And of course, the idea of having AI with that capability of acting, and I think the video that you just shared it's quite very much reasoning about this, right? Definitely, this is a kind of a tool that will be revolutionized in a way, the way we act and the way we do things. But when it comes to, let's say, reasoning, and this is, I think, where we can, let's say, spend a bit more time in terms of let's say, unpack that, right? I am interested to know a bit more about your vision in terms of AI being able to reason. What is your thought around this? What is the kind of reasoning that we can expect from AI moving forward?
Well, I think, so here it's, definitely AI, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're not talking about human intelligence, right? And I think we need to take that in the context of course, the reasoning of a human is not the reasoning of an AI. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, sometimes we even say, well, maybe intelligence is not such a great word, because basically, as we said, right, it's really learning from data sets. It's learning from the information you bring. And that's very important. And of course, as the models are evolving and with generative AI, we see more and more of capabilities to really act and reason on the basis of the data that you have given, right, in a very, very powerful way. And all the neuronal models that are evolving also in the space of artificial intelligence are bringing, I would say, those capabilities to the next level. And again, this is, my sentiment as well. I think we're far from having, of course, a technology that is able to reason similarly to a human being, right? Because again, you're pretty much acting and reasoning with the data set that you have, in your hands as an artificial intelligence or a machine learning model, right? So. And that's why it's so important to ensure that those data sets are, rightfully selected to ensure that, again, the outcome you have from this AI is going to be the right outcome. And you're constantly, training and adjusting, right? So it's not like a completely autonomous entity that is going to take decisions on its own and so on. It's really based on what you provide as input. And again, is there a day, one day in the future where AI can really, be at par with the human intelligence? I think we are very, very far from there. Technology is evolving very rapidly. I think, everybody has been super impressed by how quickly generative AI has been able to also, expand. But yeah, I think we are still extremely far from reasoning in the sense of the human brain, right? So that's where we need to be always thoughtful that this is a machine, right? And this is a system, and this is, you know, a language and something that we are obviously still very much controlling. And yeah.
Definitely. I think this is worth to, let's say, you know, put a bit of emphasis in terms of, okay, it's still a kind of a tool and it's still a kind of a machine, and this is up to us to, let's say, you know, bring the input. So I would say we will get some ways of doing things in a kind of a more productive way and efficient ways, but basically the humans stay at the center of it. Something that is, let's say, not that explicit in the UN goal and the UN global goals is the interdependencies that exist between those goals. They are, let's say, not quite separate, right? And those goals, let's say, can be pursued in some kind of a way in silo, but definitely we see that there is very, let's say, tiny interdependency between those goals that will, let's say, very much helps the humanity to make a huge difference in solving some of those grand challenges. What is your view about this? How maybe can, let's say, this systemic dimension can be addressed? We've seen that this is something that is quite intertwined, right, on those goals. And also, I think this is what makes it a bit complex in order to, let's say, try to address those issues and solve those kind of a problem. What will be the prerequisite, maybe, the condition of success, so to speak, whether it is from resources, government, regulations, skills, any other perspective, to build maybe a technology, AI type of driven technology that will be able to help us navigate the systemic complexity of those grand challenges?
Yeah, well, you know, that's a very broad question you're raising here, right? I think it's already, I mean, and we can see it's already so difficult to tackle those challenges one by one. And of course, you know, we have NGOs, we have public organizations, we have governments who are really trying to also face, you know, those challenges one by one. And, you know, I think we're so far still, you know, to tackle all of them. So now looking at them from a systemic standpoint, I think it's, you know, bringing it to a next level of complexity. Of course, I mean, thinking about diversity, equality and inclusion, for instance, right? As you are really tackling that, I think you can absolutely approach it, you know, from the different angles of gender equality, fighting against, you know, accessibility for or inaccessibility for people with disabilities. So there's a few things that obviously, and again, back to, you know, the data set you're using, right, to really have a better understanding of where you are as a company, as a society, will help tackle maybe some of those challenges, you know, 2 or 3 in one go. But I think for now, you know, I mean, when you're looking at climate action or, you know, sustainability, environment actions, I mean, it's very difficult to address at the same time the education challenge or the poverty challenge. I mean, of course, you know, there's some indirect links between those different goals. But right now, I think, you know, let's ensure that we're also having a strong focus on tackling and addressing each and every one of them. And again, you know, with the examples I gave, I think there's a fantastic opportunity for technology to really help in each and every field. And that's where, you know, it takes a lot of energy and commitment from all the structures, right? So not only governments, but NGOs and public organizations and private organizations, companies, so such as, you know, Google. We have to commit, and we are committed to really help and bring our best forward to contribute. But yeah, it is you know, it is a challenge for sure for all of us and all the societies, and also to align, right? Because when you say those are global goals, I think it's great that we have those 17, you know, goals shared and agreed across the world. Now, how do we ensure that, you know, all governments, all companies in the global dimension are really embarking all together? I think in some of them, we know we still have, you know, a long way to go. I mean, look at climate action, or, you know, even though we see, of course, commitment and intent, there's still a lot to do, I would say, to ensure that we're really advancing and progressing and committing all together. Just to take an example, I mean, as Google, we have committed to free renewable in by 2030. So we are taking very, very bold goals in that space to really ensure that we are contributing and bringing our fair share to this global challenge.
And this is also a point that you was mentioning, right, earlier when it comes to the data set, actually, right, which is about the bias. I think this is a very important point, of course, because it have, let's say, some kind of consequences for good or for bad. And actually, we talked a lot about this, topic related to unfair bias when it comes to AI. And just because of that, it seems that AI has become like a kind of a greatest opportunities for all of us, right, for the humanity to raise even more further the level of priority about fairness in society. How could AI be fairer than we have ever been, actually, right? What are the changes that need maybe to happen in our society to make sure that we can progress in that aspect and make AI even more fair, or at least, let's say, at the right level of fairness that we can expect to, let's say, have interacting and behaving from one human to another, right? Let's say, intuition is like, and maybe more than an intuition, but like, as this is just a tool in a machine, it is going to be as fair as we can be, right, in a way, because we are the designers of those machines and those, let's say, tools. So what is your point of view about this? Very interesting.
I think one absolutely critical point to address what you mentioned is to ensure that the people who are touching the technology are as representative as possible of the society, right? And let me just take the example of gender, right? So if, and nothing against men, obviously, on my my speech, but if you only have men who are really using AI, developing machine learning, managing, handling data sets, even with the the utmost openness you can have, you're still acting as a man, right? So that's why it's very important that you have this kind of representation in people who are developing, in people who are touching the technology, people who are inventing, the next waves, and really ensuring that also you see the fairness or the unfairness of the data set you're manipulating, right? So extremely important, I think, and that's why we're pushing so hard to also ensure that we have an as broad and representative set of technologists, I would say, of data scientists and so on, who are really representing the society. I took the example of gender, but disability is another one, right? Racial equity is another one. I mean, and there's been a lot of course, examples given, right? How if you're only feeding, a facial recognition system with, white collar people, how can you expect the system to be able to really recognize in the best way, people of color and so on? So that's another example. You absolutely have to really build these diverse, data set and have people who are really very aware, conscious, and representing the society to develop these technologies. I think that's, for me, the number one mandate that we need to work on to ensure that we will have effectively this fairness in the outcome you get from the tool, represented.
So this touched actually my very last question for you, Laurence, which is about diversity, right? And you quite very well mentioned, let's say, the importance about this, which is like, we clearly see the necessity in a way of having a kind of a diversity in tech, especially since all the industries, all companies are going to becoming tech companies, right? What is, from your point of view, the reason why companies should accelerate in diversifying their workforce? And what are some of the ideas and way to go?
So I think, technology is everywhere. AI is going to be, as I mentioned, our collaborator, or will be, pervasive, right? Present in everything we do. And each and every role, each and every job is going to be somehow touched by AI, right? Hopefully, and obviously we're trying to make it in a good way, right? So being able to assist you in tasks which are of less value, and helping everyone in their job. So we need to ensure that first of all, I think there's a level of democratization of the understanding, and I think the podcast you have is a great opportunity also to ensure that we bring to everyone a good understanding of this technology, how it works, and how it's going to really contribute to each and everyone in the future. So that's number one. I think we all have, as organizations also in the tech sector and in many sectors, a responsibility to bring this awareness and to bring this digitization of what it is. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it's absolutely critical that we have this diversity in the organizations, in the companies, because it's so critical that in how you develop the technology and in how you use the technology, you have people who really represent the society at best. It's not easy, right? Because and I can see, being coming from an engineering school, being, as you mentioned, of the board of that school today. We have serious issues to attract and bring. Let me take again the gender example, right? Diverse talents, or also people who are representing, all the society in those kind of studies. So it's very difficult at the moment, I have to say, to really continue to attract and show the great opportunities also for women in technology, right? And so again, giving examples of how it can help and contribute to sustainable goals, how it can help and contribute to healthcare and so on, is also a good way to open more to legal. We didn't talk about also all the space in the law, for instance, but there's a lot of great opportunities also to leverage technology to lawyers and so on. So we want to attract more women, more diverse talents in technology studies, so that definitely can help also companies then grow the level of diversity in organizations, because it starts from there, right? If you don't have people and talents who are really going through those studies, then it's very difficult to, of course, have them in the organization. So it's a society challenge we have to tackle, and not only a company challenge, I would say, or an organization challenge. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Laurence. And I fully agree with you, definitely. I think this is a great challenges that we have, all of us, to, let's say, make kind of an impact in our society for now and for the future. It was a great pleasure to, let's say, having your thoughts and benefiting from your experience and all the kind of overview that you have been able to highlight when it comes to the digital for good approach. Thank you very much again, and looking forward to see what's next. Thank you, Laurence.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hamilton. And definitely, yes, let's all advance in the positive use of those technologies and the great contribution it can have to all of us. But yes, thanks for having me. It was great to be here.